Why? Well, because there's commitment there, and also people were cheated many, many times. So, like Srila Prabhupada gave the example about ladies. He said, when a lady is cheated once, she will never really be able to fully trust somebody. She may try, but trust, faith, this is not coming actually just from the brain. Brain is good to have. We are not advocating blind or sentimental followership. No. But it comes ultimately from the heart. So to give heart, oh, that's very difficult. Once the heart gets cheated, I had a godbrother who gave a very nice example. He said, faith, trust, it's like a Chinese vase, very beautiful. When it falls down and breaks, you can collect the pieces and glue them together again. It will be again Chinese vase, but it doesn't look the same. So it's the most precious thing we can actually give is the faith and the trust. Now I wonder, what has this to do with Srila Prabhupada? A lot. Because this movement was created and started on a level of trust, faith, and then comes a word which I personally don't use very often, love. When people speak about love in a material world, well, we know what that means. Love can change into hatred very quickly. I love you, I hate you. How many times we heard that one? Usually when there are very young people sitting here, they go, what is he talking about? And the older ones, they go, yeah, we know. Because we all experience that, how love and hatred can change very quickly. But the love we are talking about, based on spiritual love, spiritual principles, that doesn't change. That's the difference. Why? Because it's not based on our bodily perception. It's based on spiritual perception. And spiritual love, it's not only deeper, but it's eternal. From material love, as we described, it can be very intense, you know that. Like we spoke about my parents before I came here, they loved each other the whole life. I didn't know that. I was the only son and I thought, this is normal, this is what people do. My parents were like, my mother was a very young, beautiful girl when I was born. I had a problem because I always think this is my sister later on when I grew up. I said, no, this is my mother. So of course she had many advances from men and you know. I remember she had one response to that. I remember that I was registering it as a small boy when a young man came and they wanted to have some flirting with my mother. And then they were advancing. There was man has a strategy, you know, they always go. So it came to a certain point, she said, no, I will not do this. I don't think my husband will like it. You know, it was like, pong. You know, that was the end of it. And they knew, okay, now trouble starts. Then now is trouble coming. That was completely natural for these people. It was still material. They had no spiritual life. They had no spiritual interest, really. But it was just arranged by karma, by destiny. They met each other and they spent their whole lifetime together like this. But it's ended up with separating, the death. Material love can go next lifetime, yeah, you can do. You can even switch the roles. Man loved the woman, woman loved the man. Next lifetime, the man becomes a woman, and the woman becomes a man, and they keep on going like this. There's a stories like that. It's sometimes very evident who was who in last lifetime. They just switch the roles. You know, it can be, but it's not forever. And it's problems. There's always problems. I don't want to go now into it. This is not really, you know, but when we look, Srila Prabhupada was most of his life a married man. He was not a sannyasi, he was not a renunciate, he was a married man. He had children, he had a family, he had business. So, but still, it was not problem-free. There are many problems, actually. Actually, Srila Prabhupada already, he very rarely spoke about this. Because he was a sannyasi, he didn't want to go back to that, really. It was a closed chapter. But sometimes disciples were very eager to find out, like, what is our spiritual master? How was it when he was a married man? And Prabhupada was very brief about this. But he always stressed the essence of these things. He said, no, my wife was not very spiritually interested, but she was a chaste wife. For those who are interested to find details about Prabhupada's life, they are very touching and very deep, very moving details of his life. You wouldn't expect that from a spiritual leader of a worldwide movement. But I love always to hear the testimonies of his personal servants who were just with him day and night for a little while. Prabhupada was so intense, he was the oldest in the whole movement, but he was actually the youngest. Why? I mean, even physically spoken, his schedule was so demanding. He traveled all the time. He was translating books all the time. He was managing the whole movement all the time, all at once, while moving. So his servants, they had to be regularly changed. They were young men, but I would say maximum 3 months, they were finished. I spoke to one of his servants and said, you know what I did after 3 months serving Prabhupada? I drove to my parents. They had a house, and I slept for 1 week. I was finished. And Prabhupada kept on traveling around the planet. 10 times he's circumambulating the planet like this, from one location to the other. Energy which you cannot materially define. A 65, 70 years old man. I operate with a body 70 years old, but I feel quite okay. I don't have some heavy, warning here hanging on the wall, but still I feel sometimes, I'm not 18 years old, I know that. So, but Prabhupada kept on going, again and again and again. Amazing energy. Still, one of his servants, he revealed that, he said, he was walking with Prabhupada in his birth town, Calcutta. And actually, they did revisit the place where Prabhupada had his family house. I think it doesn't exist anymore. And they came to the street where Prabhupada had his family and his house and his business. Prabhupada stopped and he started to cry. And the servants were like, what's happening? Prabhupada said, what have I done? He said, my wife, she was not very spiritually interested, but she was a chaste, good wife. My children, everything, I left all this on a certain point. And we know the background. Prabhupada left it at the point where there was really not much more to do. The children were out, and Prabhupada said, whatever money I still had, I just gave them, and then I left for Vrindavan. But still, as a human being, he felt actually, what have I done? I left these people, So of course we know what he has done. Well, he came to the West, and finally we can boldly say he saved the whole world. That's quite a good excuse to leave a family, Whoever wants to leave family, I would say, okay, come on, save the whole world. If you cannot save the whole world, don't do that. We have actually such a thing in Krishna consciousness. This is called vanaprastha. And there's even something called kshetra sannyas. This is actually meant for a man and woman growing all together in some place, preferably holy place, practicing spiritual life and dying together. Let's see who dies first. That's an honorable way to finish this. Yeah. So that's possible. That's also like that. There's even states. We have many stories in Bhagavatam, in our scriptures. Especially the non-Brahminical persons. There is Kshatriya, there is a warrior, there is a businessman, and there is a simple worker. They are not recommended to take the state of sannyas or ultimate renunciation. And Prabhupada, anyway, if you study his teachings and his lectures and comments, he was ultimately not encouraging this. I know this is a little bit controversial to say because we have in our movement sannyasis and, yeah. Well, first of all, in a Shastra, we find this, for this age, forbidden. It's actually forbidden. Now, I wondered, why Prabhupada did this anyway? And one of my Govardhans, he nicely explained to me, he said, well, Prabhupada wanted to present a Vedic culture. We are not just a religious movement, it's a culture. And in that culture, there are different departments, Vedic culture. There is brahmachari, simple student. Then there is usually, he gets married. And then he has his married life with all what belongs to it. And then it comes to the end. He can only leave with the permission of the wife. This, by the way, is quite law. It's good law. If wife doesn't, because you know why? You know how it came about? When Prabhupada started to give sannyas, so many of his young disciples, they were still very young, they also wanted sannyas. Oh, me sannyas too. And by that time, quite few, many of them were already married in this movement. It's possible, it's called Grihastha Ashram. And why did they want to take sannyas? 2 reasons. They had a very heavy wife, and they want to become, so who stays sannyas? That was a very worshipable person. You got lots of privileges which you didn't got normally, Very tempting, You get rid of one problem and you get all, Prabhupada didn't like it. There's letters, if you study his correspondence, it's recorded. He writes to one of his disciples, you show me first how to be responsible grihastha, then we can talk sannyas. And he liked it less and less. Actually, I shouldn't say it, it's recorded now, but he wrote then at the end, it was an experiment which didn't went well. And it's not because it's a bad idea, really. You want to present a Vedic culture. We have brahmacharis here, we have married men here, and we have the renounced men here, and we have the sannyasis here. It's part of it. It's like one package. But he said, but the sannyasis really didn't went very well. And not because it's bad, but because there's the qualification. I don't want to go now into it, that's it. But whoever, you just... From 38 of what sannyas Prabhupada gave, 80 times, maybe 2-3 survived. The rest either, at best, got married or left for good. Oh, this is facts. So what to do? It was one of my godbrothers, he was a top book distributor. Like me, I was for a while also distributing books. I knew him. He was in America, I was in Germany, and we had a competition going on. Okay, who will do more books? And he decided to take sannyas. Prabhupada, you find it in the correspondence, he told me, what are you going to do with this? This is sannyasi, the many rules and regulations, and doesn't fit the book distribution, really. You are brahmachari anyway. You are free to go anywhere and distribute books. And sannyasi, there will be so many restrictions, and people will perceive you as different. I don't know why. Until today, I don't know why. But if somebody takes sannyas, many ladies get activated. You think, why? I had one godbrother, he took sannyas. He said, what do they want? I'm ugly. I have big ears. He had big ears. He said, I'm ugly. I have no money. I'm sannyasi. And they get so interested. He said, what do they want? Until today, I couldn't really clearly define what it is, but probably some search for purity or something like that, or taking shelter in this. In India, it's much more clear. From a good renunciate comes a good child. Very simple logic. So that's how many of the renunciates became fathers. So anyway, but Prabhupada said they are not very pleased with this. And he gave a sannyas a wonderful definition. You still find it in his letter. He said, ultimately sannyas means you do the needful. No personal consideration, no personal motivation, you just do what is needed to be done. Wonderful definition of sannyas. And he writes, basically by the end of the life, everybody sooner or later has to come back to this because it's natural. I mean, what do you want to do when you are... The number is given 50, okay, after 50. But that's in a chronological order of a development of a human being in a normal way. Normal way, Vedic way, means a boy gets training. All, especially boys. They get training, celibacy, brahmacharya. Spiritual education. No association intimate with female. And that goes until 18, 19, and then it becomes very evident. There are expert people who go, well, this boy, we have different kind of bodies, With this kind of body, not good idea. Renunciation, sannyas, not good. That's most of them. Actually, to be able to take sannyas, you have to be a Brahminical nature. If you are not a Brahminical nature, everybody else must get married. By law. So most of the people get married. And it's arranged and it's done. I don't want to go now in detail. How it's arranged, for Western point of view, is quite shocking actually how it's arranged. It's arranged. So it's finished, it's settled. Okay? And then, you marry, you are 20. By the age of 45, 50, you are gone. The kids are growing up. They go, live their own lives. The wife is the same wife, Not much new to say, really. I always wondered when I was even a young boy, how old couples are living together. This is for me a mystery. They know each other. They are like, yes, they know exactly what habits they have, and they know the bodies, and they know all this. I was going, where's the excitement? No, there can be excitement. And there is a deep feeling of loyalty, deep feeling of responsibility to each other. This is how Srila Prabhupada defined married life. He didn't spoke about some romantic things. He said, first principle, responsibility, okay? Which includes loyalty. That was his, very clearly said it. And that's how he felt. Despite the instruction he got from his spiritual master when he was already a young man. His spiritual master, by the first meeting, told him, you are a very intelligent man. You should preach to English-speaking people. And whenever you get some money, businessman, print my books. Print books. That's all. And he never forgot it. But it took like 40 years before he could really do it. Why? The Prabhupada was thinking, how can I do that? I have a family. It's a responsible thing. And then gradually it was evident that there's nothing to do. He could nothing to do with the family. There was no spiritual feedback also, and there was simply nothing to do. And Prabhupada didn't want. He said, my spiritual master appeared in my dream, and he was calling me. To actually take sannyas means preaching. If sannyasi doesn't preach, it's useless. It's just a lonely man sitting in some corner and accepting gifts. Oh, that's not very inspiring, It's a welfare pensioner, No, sannyasa means preach. And he said, how can I preach? How can I preach? I have my family here. But Krishna showed that this all was falling apart. So ultimately Prabhupada had no other choice as to really enter the last stage of his life, in a rather advanced stage of life. And he went to Vrindavan and he took sannyas, getting ready to going. That usually you don't do in that age. In that age people go to Vrindavan to get ready to die. That's what they do. It's a nice place to die. Whoever dies in that place goes back home, back to Guru automatically. So Prabhupada's motivation was different. There's records recently, still testimonies coming from people who saw him at that time. And they go, we saw him only crying, praying, begging. Just recently I heard a story, he was staying in one temple in Vrindavan, at the Samadhi of Rupa Goswami. And they heard at night, shh, 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 shh. Somebody is sweeping the floor around the Samadhi. And then they went out, and there was, the newly initiated sannyasi, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, and he was sweeping the floor. And he was crying. And he said, I'm sweeping for Rupa Goswami, praying to him. How can I do this? But my spiritual master said, it was impossible. Prabhupada was never in the West. He knew India very well. He traveled the whole India in the name of business, up and down. He was never in the West. The only thing he knew from the West was the British, who were dominating India. But otherwise, he didn't know anything. So finally he got this idea that, he came to Shrimati Murarji, whatever his name, begging, I have to go in the West, can you give me a ticket? I have no money on a boat. And she said, relates then, she said, Swamiji, you're too old for this, you will die. And she was right. Because he got on a boat and he almost died. Get heavy heart attack. And he was thinking, I don't care. At least I'm on the way. This is the mood Srila Prabhupada implanted into us. Doesn't matter what the result will be, but you are doing the right thing, you are going in the right direction. Krishna can see it. Krishna will see you are doing the right thing. This is very important. Sometimes I meet devotees like, I come to Rijeka or whatever. I know exactly, I will sooner or later meet somebody who will go, we are in Rijeka, not much going on really here. They ask me, you may give some lecture in Rijeka, but we don't know how many people will come. And I said, well, will somebody come? Yeah, a few. I said, are you joking? You know where I come from? From Sweden. And you know who comes in Sweden? Nobody. Program like this, there will be two people. And one is Indian and the other one is Russian. Okay? That's a Swedish program. And it's full. And I will speak exactly the same way I speak now. I don't care, damn. Srila Prabhupada was exactly in the same situation. Finally, after almost dying, he arrived in America. There was nobody. But Prabhupada was totally, at least I'm doing what my spiritual master said. Finally. So sorry if somebody gets depressed in Rijeka. It's actually not very Krishna conscious. Because you are on the right thing, you came to the right place, you are doing the right thing. For Srila Prabhupada. There was one, my godbrothers, he wrote to Prabhupada a letter. He came actually to Germany, not originally meaning to stay there. He was actually using Germany as a base to go to the east, to communistic countries and preach underground. He was even, Yugoslavia was a very popular place, you know why? Because it was the only place you could really go to, but here you met all the people from the eastern countries. So they were going with suitcases with books, and they distributed books in a camping place here, There were Czech tourists, there were Bulgarian tourists, there were Romanian tourists, and they were like distributing books. Yugoslavia was a very good place. That was very essential. Lots of preaching started here. Anyway, So he said, well, now I'm in Germany, and I'm not really local. Nobody asked him what I'm doing here. It seems like nobody likes what I'm doing here. I mean, speaking about devotees even. So what am I doing here at all? Prabhupada. Prabhupada wrote him a letter. What are you talking about? I see what you are doing. Krishna sees what you are doing. This is not good enough for you? And he was like, oh, Jai, Hariba! And he was going again. So we should know that we are in the right place, doing the right thing, and the result, leave it up to Krishna. Now we should be ready if something happens. But if nothing happens, we do it anyway. That's what it is. Sorry. That's what I do today, and that's what I did when I was 18 years old. I have no idea what happens. It looked to me like I come from a generation of devotees. We really thought we are going to take over the world, Well, they didn't. Sorry. It didn't happen. What shall I do now? Shall I be frustrated? Oh, we didn't take over the world. Oh. The world goes on, and the Hare Krishna movement somewhat goes also on. What shall we do now? They ask me sometimes, about ISKCON. I go, I don't know. Of course, I know. I get things to hear, and some things are really funny. But what shall I do about it? I'm right now here in Rijeka, and that's for me ISKCON. That's for me the Hare Krishna movement. And when they ask me, what is ISKCON? Well, that's you. You're sitting here. That's for me. That's it. Tomorrow I will be, Friday I'm in Zadar, and that will be the ISKCON. And then I'm in Split, and this is ISKCON. Why should I bother? I cannot anyway do anything about this. It's happening. But what I can do, try to be possibly as close as possible to that what Srila Prabhupada would like me to do. Oh, what I would give for Prabhupada being here and telling me, go here, go there, do this. Oh, I would love it. It's not really happening. I'm trying. I know the basic line, what Prabhupada gave, that I know. But how to apply oneself, that's a struggle of everybody. It's very individual. But one thing Prabhupada left behind, one message. We all have a chance. That was amazing when you met Srila Prabhupada. You thought, even guests who came just curiosity, it's shocking. Like I give you an example, Prabhupada got a visit of a Sikh delegation, in India. Sikh with the turbans. So Kshatriya race. They came to see the big Acharya. So they came, a whole gang, and they sit on Prabhupada, and they just want to, pious people, they want to see the holy man. Prabhupada looked at them and said, very good you came. You will be our ISKCON police. We need also an army, We are spreading a movement all over the world, and there will be many enemies, but you will be our police. And they were like, me? Us? We are Sikhs. It's another religion. And Prabhupada said, no, this can be all implemented. You can be, we have a place for you. Please. It was amazing. I can tell you detailed stories about people who were, I'm coming from generation essentially of drug addicts, very extreme, people, 60s, potential terrorists, this is the generation I come from. When I was an art student, you could say, oh, this is the people that are painting. No. Everybody was, no! Hippies, they had a slogan, never trust anybody over 30, which is stupid, but this was the mood. Don't trust anything. Question everything. Why? I went to school, I was a 16 years old boy, and the teacher said, now with chemistry here, the chemical formula is H2O. And immediately somebody asked, okay, you have a question? Yes. Why? Why? Water is H2O. And the other boy said, I like X12 more. Who invented that crap? Where's it coming? The teacher didn't know. Who created that formula? Hydrogen, oxygen. But who put it together? He couldn't answer. We were going, he's stupid. He doesn't know himself what it is. And we ask all the time questions, so much. I was supposed to write an essay, in German. There was already a title there, and that already I hated. Somebody gave me a title. I cannot write what I want. That was already enough. So there was a title. Why should we go on holiday? What a stupid question. So I took the paper and wrote in the middle of the paper, yes, why? And I gave it back. The teacher said, well, this is not an essay, this is one sentence, You have to write, otherwise you will get a bad note. I said, okay. I was writing a lot at that time already. Diaries, and diaries so big. I just wrote every day I feel it, I sing, and little bit, And then, it's usually what diaries are, So anyway, I wrote an essay, 4 pages full of the most horrifying description what can happen on holiday. I mean, pure horror. We were driving to Spain and the flies were smashing against the screen of the car and my parents went to the beach and the skin got burnt and were peeling from their bodies. Quite from reality, but really heavy. It was horrible. 4 pages full of that nonsense. The teacher didn't say anything. He gave me actually quite good note. He was afraid what else I can do. So that was our mood. That mood brought us also to Krishna consciousness. Because Prabhupada said, in Krishna consciousness, if you really want to understand, you have to forget whatever you heard before. Therefore, he also explained, while younger people have an easy access because they are more open, old people, they are kind of habituated to sing in certain patterns. But I saw also wonderful old people joining, actually. There are even countries where my godbrothers who are preaching, I'm speaking about South America, they said, the parents of the devotees, they are much better than the devotees. Nice people who are practical. And actually, I like young people. Actually, the reason why I am a little bit not exactly compatible with my age, because I just associate only with young people in the last 30 or 40 years. I like when young people come and they do the same stupid things I used to do. I don't care. But they are alive. They have ideas and they want to do something. I don't relate much to people of my age. They are all like, not easy. We have to think about it. There's nothing happening, come on. It's boring. I go, okay boys, wake up, let's do something. Well, it could go wrong. Old people sometimes become like this, parked in negativity, it doesn't do anything. Just imagine Prabhupada would think like this. We wouldn't sit here today. I cannot go to the West. Who knows what happens? It's not easy. And it wasn't easy. And it was dangerous actually. Prabhupada didn't care. My spiritual master gave me instruction, I go. But Prabhupada said, and even I would have died on the ship. At least I did something. And he brought 3 trunks of books, which nobody ordered. Nobody knew even they are there. And Prabhupada said, if I would just distribute 3 boxes of these books and die, then at least I did something. Actually it was amazing. Prabhupada obviously didn't expect this movement to be so big, So it was amazing to see such an empowered acharya walking through almost sometimes like a kid in a big toy shop. He was walking around going, Brahmananda, it's really big here, look how many came. But he took it like, okay, if this is what Krishna is ending, let's do something with it. This was so provoking such a faith, such a trust. Because we knew Prabhupada never think, oh, I did it, He never thought 1 second like that. He just pragmatically, immediately engaged, and he was very qualified. You have to be specially expert for that. And he was expert in all levels. First of all, he was a very good manager also. He was laughing sometimes, said, I'm coming from the impoverished India, and I have to teach you Americans how to manage. I'm a third world, Indian, and I have to teach you how to manage here. Because you get cheated all the time. And you couldn't cheat Prabhupada. Impossible. I could tell stories about, Because when you start a movement like this, you cannot be just a pure devotee. You need also some equipment to it, which many pure devotees don't have. And that doesn't make them less pure, but we have in our Guru Parampara pure devotees, of the top ranking devotees, who were even illiterate. They couldn't even write or read. You don't need this for Krishna consciousness. But to start a worldwide movement, you need. And Krishna Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj knew, he will do it. He can do that. He saw immediately. And Prabhupada proved. The stories I could tell you today. Prabhupada buying a Detroit temple. That is really false. Prabhupada came to Detroit visiting, and devotees were living in a rather modest location. And they thought we would like to have a nice temple. There's lots of people coming, and So they found a building which was not used to be a good neighborhood, but it was not such a good neighborhood, but the building was amazing. It was amazing villa at the river, which had its own private harbor, and it belonged to a very, very rich man once upon a time. So Prabhupada said, I want to see it. So they took Prabhupada into that, they make an appointment with the broker, with the man. He came, and Prabhupada walks through this, and devotees were shocked. They came into the huge dining room. It got 3 arches like this, just already prepared for the altar. They're going, hey, this is like an altar here. And Prabhupada just walked around, looked, like very detached. And they got a private harbor. You could drive with the boat, like this. Instead of the garage in the back, there was actually a boat place. I was never there, but I heard detailed description. It got fancy chandeliers, and it was a very fancy place. So by the time they were finished with the excursion, Prabhupada looked at the broker, and he said, this is a very nice place. We are interested, but we are monks, we have no money. Can you give it to us for free? Man was shocked. He said, for free? He said, yeah, we are doing wonderful thing, this very, very good organization, so you could give it to us for free. And the man was completely deranged. They're like, what? Nobody ever asked him this before. He said, I have to ask the owner, that doesn't work. No, but we cannot give it for free, And then Prabhupada said, okay, how much do you want? And then the broker said, well, there's a price. Those were their price established. And Prabhupada said, that much? And then he had with him 2 disciples. It was a lady, Mataji, which was a daughter of one of the top leading men in the American Worker Union organization. And Worker Union is fighting for the rights of the workers, but it doesn't mean they are poor. Her father was a very rich man. And then he had with him Ambarish Prabhu, who was the grandson of Mr. Ford. He took them with him. He knew exactly what he's doing. So he looked at the Mataji, was going, you have some money? And she said, well, I could give something, but not the full price, and not that much. So he said, okay, and what can you give? And Ambarish said, well, I could give also something, but not that much. So they end up like half the price. I don't know exactly the details. So Prabhupada looked at him and said, well, that's what we have. You take it or you leave it. And he said it with such a force that the man said, okay, I will check with the owner. Probably, yeah, we could think about it. Prabhupada said, no thinking. That's the last offer. That's it. And you know, you will not sell this place. I know that. Because it's so impractical. And he described to him the whole thing, you know. He said, who will buy a place like this? For a family, it's too big. For an office, you cannot make any business here with this. It's just a monument. So it's completely impractical, useless building for such a high price. Are you crazy? So that's what we give, and that's it. So the man came back, he said, okay, we agree. And it was done in 1-2 days. So the devotee had a new temple. Fancy place. And when they came to move into the temple, they found the broker, actually the owner, came back. And he was, taking some chandeliers down. And he said, no. We bought the whole thing, including the interior. You cannot take this. And he was furious, the man. He said, this old Indian man who was making this whole deal, he said, I was never cheated in my life like this. So I take at least the chandelier with me. And he ran out of the door. The next day, Prabhupada was departing from Detroit. And in an airplane, he started to smile. And he said, it's quite amazing. I came to visit Detroit for a few days and I bought a castle. And then he left. This was happening all the time. When we were close to Prabhupada, all the time this was happening. Devotees were like, this is amazing. You can read Srila Prabhu. He wrote 3 books about this. It's called Hunting the Rhinoceros. Why? Because it's a quote from Prabhupada. He said, we always go for the rhinoceros because it's simple. It's very difficult to hunt rhinoceros. Most of the time you will not succeed. But then people go, oh, this was a big rhinoceros. Of course he didn't succeed, and nobody will make a big thing about it. And if you succeed, they go, wow, it's amazing. So it's no harm to try. Let's try. And the devotee said, but Prabhupada, we cannot do this. This is impossible. And Prabhupada said, impossible is in a word in a dictionary of fools. Didn't exist. We have Chaitanya Charitamrita. You know how that book came about? Prabhupada said, first of all, Chaitanya Charitamrita it's the most elevated type of transcendental literature you can imagine. Prabhupada said, we are going to publish Chaitanya Charitamrita. Then he gave a time frame, how to publish 4 volumes of this big book. The devotee said, Prabhupada, this is not possible. By that time already he had a publishing department and all this, an editing department. Prabhupada, this is not possible. He again said, no, impossible is a word in a fool's dictionary. And they were going for it. And they did exactly on a day published the last book on that. There was a devotees flying to India making photographs of these various places. There was illustration painting going on day and night. This is the worst thing you can do to artists. An artist is painting, Then he takes a rest, another artist takes over. This is insulting to the ego of any artist. So he wakes up and he goes, oh, what did you paint it? No. Then he keeps on painting again. That's how the illustrations came about. It was just day and night. Devotees were sleeping under the tables, completely mad. And they did it. Because Prabhupada felt very under time pressure. I think partially it was also because when you are in a certain age, I know that feeling now, you feel kind of a little bit pressurized. You think, okay, how many days more in this body, Tomorrow it can be over. If somebody tells me, can you come next year to Rijeka? I say, I will try, but I don't know. Maybe next year I'm dead, It's quite possible. Somebody died in my age. Now, I don't see any clear signs that I should die, but people die sometimes just walking and finished. It happens all the time. So why should I be an exception? I'm amazed every day. Hey, I woke up. I didn't die. That's good. Let's go. In a certain age, you start to think. When you are young, you think, oh, I live forever. And you have plans, and you think, oh, no, I will do this and I will do that. But young people die too, especially today. So anyway, Prabhupada's life was so invigorating to others. Why? Because he always gave us a hope. There was a place and hope for everybody. I can give you examples of some of my early godbrothers I joined in Germany. Well, the first crew of my godbrothers I joined, this was a people with heavy criminal record, drug abuse record. I was quite out of it because I never took drugs and I was not in jail. That made me exceptional, I was coming from Czechoslovakia. In Germany, they had no idea, where is this man coming from? Because they were not some refugees, it was an iron curtain, It was communistic and capitalistic, and there I was. Bhakta Miroslav. They had no idea, who is this? They look at me like, well, he's chanting, that's nice, but how is he chanting? Because German chanting is Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama, Jew and Odi, let's fulfill the mission. I joke sometimes about Germans. My God, I shouldn't say it. Some Germans get nervous and they get upset. They're going, well, previously you were all standing like this, now you stand like that. It's much better. Hariba. It's just a joke. Please forgive me. They are wonderful German devotees. Please. But I was in Germany long enough. So I know. Germans, they work. When you ask them, why are you working? I have to eat. Why are you eating? I have to work. Why are you working? I have to eat. You say, that's all. Hey, when are you living? And they go, living, working. I always enjoy when Germans come to Italy, like tourists or something like this. And they look at the Italians. And Italians, they have a very different approach to life. They just go in, cappuccino, la la, and vino tinto. And then the German tourists, they go, what kind of place is this? This is disorganized. Look at this dirt, and look at this mess here. This is too much. This is how they spend holiday, It's crazy. They are so nervous. They go, yeah, this is also chaotic here. And Italians are like, la la la, vino tinto, So I always enjoy to look at it. It's really funny. This is called conditioning. But, once again, Prabhupada, he had a place for everybody. Like he said, the Germans, they could manage the whole world. And it's true. That when Krishna consciousness will be really, he said, the Germans will manage. He said, even in my pharmacy, the best medicine came from Germany. So he was like, he knew immediately, okay, let's employ it for Krishna. Why not? Everybody has a certain nature given to him already by his birth, the bodily nature. But that can be engaged. And a big mistake, what devotees sometimes do, they try to change that nature. Well, good luck with that one. I give you a little secret. It doesn't work. No. They go, but I heard I'm not this body. Yeah, that's true. Of course you are not this body. But it doesn't mean the body disappeared. You want to become a ghost or what? All Krishna conscious ghosts. Forget it. This is not the International Society for Krishna Conscious Ghosts. This is an international society for real people. And what do I mean by saying real people? Who are conscious. Prabhupada said the body is like a car. It's good to know what kind of car you are driving. If you don't know it, you will end up really frustrated. If I sit in a Fiat Punto and you go play for Porsche, I get angry. It doesn't drive. Of course it doesn't drive. It's Fiat Punto or whatever. Marut. Just in India, So then, but I can still drive. And somebody can say, oh, look, I got such a Brahminical Porsche, full speed, full knowledge. I know so much. You know how many Porsches I saw in Krishna consciousness being lying in a ditch upside down? Some came to understand. They are so smart, they know even more than Srila Prabhupada. And what was the result? Poof. Heavy accident. And I know devotees, very simple. They drive the Fiat Punto, and they go back to Godhead. Because they always keep the line and they go, beep, beep, And Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, everybody has a chance. He mentions especially Shudras, women and all this. Sorry, that's Krishna talking, not me. So, yeah. This is a Hare Krishna movement. But why to lie to each other? I tried sometimes in Krishna consciousness thinking, well, this is a movement to train brahmanas. I have to become a brahmana. I tried a few times. Devotees were looking at me like, what are you doing? Because you will get the feedback, They were like, I was going, I have to be brahmana, Yeah. And I get feedback from some Godbrothers. They go, Manidhar are giving lectures. So many jokes, no shlokas. The spiritual talking. Yeah. And I think, they are right. I should not be very shastric and I should just shower the shlokas on you and I should quote Shastra all the time and I should show Shastra you never read. You don't even know. And you will say, wow, that's really a learned Brahminical person. But I don't understand anything what he's talking about. I don't like it. One of the most pleasant things when devotees tell me, hey, I was in your lecture, I did two things. First of all, I was shocked. I understood everything what you are talking about. You think, why is he talking like this? Because you can get lectures, you will sit here for 2 hours, you will not understand one damn thing. But the preacher will be, this samhita and this, and he will just go, so, that was a brahmana talking. And you go, wow, prasadam, the only thing you end up feeling, I'm hungry. No. And then the second thing they goes to me, I didn't laugh for a long time. Because the lecture sometimes I just, and the audience is like, we have to become ecstatic in Krishna consciousness. And you go, hey, something went wrong here, sometimes I hear kirtan, I see a lecture, I go, it's like funeral, somebody died? I didn't come to Krishna consciousness for that. I joined a crew of a totally ecstatic people. So ecstatic that they were ripping out the handles on the doors. That happens when you have young people, Yeah? That's more of passion, actually. But it was ecstatic. And you know what? They didn't know much. There was hardly a books published when I joined. But they knew one thing. Prabhupada ki jai! That was the first thing. I came first time in that temple, there was a devotee running down the stairs. He looked at me and was going, Prabhupada ki jai! And then he ran away. I was like, what kind of people are these? Nobody else like this. I never heard people. I never saw people like this before. Everything was bam, bam, bam. And I was a shy boy. Believe me or not, I was a very shy boy. I was writing poems and reading books, painting, always alone. Then I came into that. It was like joining an army which is just about to start attack. Let's go. It was the mood. I was going, hey, they're all in war. What happened here? And they look at me like, what are you doing? And I was going, well, I'm chanting. He said, that you can do later. We are working here. That's Germany, Yeah. No, meditating, working. That was at least the mood those days. I'm speaking about 1972. Anyway, so Prabhupada gave exact, and he was, you believe it or not, he was himself criticized even by his godbrothers that Swamiji is always doing, organizing and opening and collecting money and all this. And no, we are more the Brahminical people. He's a Vaishya, we know that. He was selling pharmacy, medicine. No. Prabhupada knew when you start a worldwide movement, you have to give it a really good push. And he was exactly the empowered person to do it. Expert businessman, expert manager, and above all, very expert dealing with people. It was so amazing to see Srila Prabhupada preaching. You never knew what you get. Because it was the same philosophy. But the way he presented that was so personal and so individual. And that's why people felt affected. They said, my God, he knows me. The old Indian man, and he knows me. And the trust being established, culminating in love. And I mentioned before at the beginning, the real love. There was no boundaries. There was no conditions. Material love means always like, I love you, but do you love me? And what will you do when you love me? Give me, and I give you. And Prabhupada called it business. Spiritual love, no business, no conditions. And that culminated to a point where Prabhupada, relatively new disciples, he could send them anywhere in the whole world. They found him, somebody gave him in his room was a globus, And he told to Brahmananda, his disciple, he said, here, turn the globus like rotating like this. And he said, Brahmananda, I think you will go to Africa. And you will go to Japan. And they were like looking at the globus going, me? What, me? Japan? What shall I do in Japan? Oh, said Krishna, he said, very well, he's in Japan too. And we don't have anything in Japan. Anything is good. You should go to Japan. And you should go to Africa. Africa, They did it. They just did it. He could send them to hell and they would go. Harikesha was sent to eastern countries preaching. Very dangerous. You could get, you could get killed. KGB sometimes they don't, they know how to make you disappear. So it was very dangerous. And then Harikesha came back and told Prabhupada, when we go out there in this eastern countries, there's nothing to eat. They just have a beer and meat and some vegetable, but very little. So Prabhupada said, you have to eat. Well, Prabhupada, does it mean that we have to eat meat? Prabhupada said, yeah. But Prabhupada, when I eat meat, I go to hell. Prabhupada said, yes, but before you will preach. Of course, it never happened. They found ways how to survive, but it was a thing. Prabhupada was so determined. And whoever surrendered to that spirit, he got so many blessings. And we are still in that phase of Krishna consciousness, sorry. Now you may not feel like this when you come to India and these thousands of devotees and big temples. But especially preaching for the West, I would say especially. I was asked to go to India many times. And I don't feel that inspired. You know why? Because it's already going on. I like to go to places where they go, not many devotees coming, only 5. And I look at the map and I go, that's a lot. Hey, it's good. I like to go to these places. And believe it or not, this movement was actually, in essence, spread by very few people. You know how I know that? When you study Prabhupada's correspondence, you watch the names he's writing the letters. It's the same names coming up again and again. You can see the date, you can see the year, and you can see it's the same names coming. There's only very few. But then so many came, and so many can take part. But if you go to the backbone of the whole thing, to the essence, there are not so many. So we should know that, and we should not get discouraged. Not much going on Riyaka, not much on going in anywhere. And anywhere I go, it's like, last man standing, God, yeah. Don't. It was always like that. In Germany, we were declared to be the most dangerous sect after the Second World War. It was a sect danger. Many other sects came about. There was all kinds, I can give you names, this ridiculous people. There was Children of God, and there was Guru Maharaji, and then there was Bhagavan Osho came at the end. There are many followers. So Germany felt threatened. There's sects coming everywhere. But nobody looked like us, on Harinam. When I went first day with my dhoti on the street, people immediately called police. Germans like to call police anyway. So they called police. There's a madman in a bedsheet on the street. And he has no hair. Just not to having hair was. Then they found out he's vegetarian. It was almost like becoming terrorist. It's like shocking. Everything in devotees was totally shocking. I still joined Germany when people were crying on Hitler's birthday, That was still there. So, yeah, we did it anyway. And we like to do that. We were young. Young people like to provoke sometimes. We were like, hey, woo, that's the young people. They like to be a bit provocative. So that was also there. And police station was like my second home. Always, we didn't care. We knew we are doing the right thing. And mistakes were made. Mistakes in dealing with, like we mentioned, with relatives, how later on when I became temple president, even the new devotees, very rarely, but when a new bhakta came, new bhakti, they were shocked. They said, you didn't even ask what I did before I joined the Hare Krishna movement, and you are asking about my parents? Why are you doing this? My parents, they are in Maya. I said, really? I want to talk to them. I insisted. They were going, you mean they should come here? I said, of course. Do they want to come? Yeah. And I tell you, it was very interesting to talk to the parents. They didn't expect it either. They said, my child got captured by some sect or, so many misunderstandings, unnecessary. I end up with parents. I remember this one mother, she told me, I can talk to you for hours. We became it was getting personal. She told me about how the husband divorced her and all that. I was going, well, I didn't want to know that much, But she really started to talk. And she said, why can I talk to you, the Hare Krishna leader here or whatever, and I cannot talk to my son like this? I said, it's very simple, because you are the mother. Because he wants to go his own line. And he feels, like, I am not the mama's boy anymore. And she understood that. She said, how can I change it? I said, just wait. Be patient. He will come around, don't worry. This was a talk I had with the parents, And some of the parents became really good. They were really, anyway, my focus to some degree shifted then. I started to talk because more and more elderly people came, and devotees also became elderly. And for me today, it's actually very interesting to talk to elderly devotees too. Not only devotees, but people coming just from the congregation is also very interesting. Why? Because they have lots of experience. Experience many young devotees don't have, or couldn't even get, because they were not really experiencing that. And I experienced in my life, when I was 18 years, going on the street, 18 years old, and I told people on the street, it's all Maya, family life, Maya. I was a monk, brahmachari. They look at me like, how old are you? What do you know about family life, huh? And I was like, puffed up, kamis, what did I do? I'm here the Hare Krishna preacher, what do they know? I have the highest philosophy, on this. But after a while I start to realize, maybe they're a little bit right, What do I know about it? Well, and Krishna took me around with the whole tour, like a sightseeing tour. That's what it means to be a husband. That's what it means to become a father. It's heavy lessons you get there. I'm not going to go in details what it means when you sit in a delivery hospital and somebody brings a little package and gives it to you, and that's your child. That feeling is, you cannot define. It's like, because men are so stupid. They always think, yeah, my wife is pregnant, but this is some kind of, And I was not alone. There was 5 kami men sitting in a room, and they got 1 children after another delivered like this. You should see the faces of these people. They were like, like they're crying. And, interesting moment, you learn a lot. You think, big man, no brain. And for women, it's like, well, child, they're made for that. For them, it's like, okay, bye. Man, it's like, as one of the mothers, she told me, the input of a man in the terms of children is very minimal, actually. And comparatively, what the mother has to go through and what she has to face, the man's participation is very short, basically. I don't want to count now how many minutes, but, it's very short. But then the whole rest is just, the mother doing the whole thing. My relationship with my wife changed completely when she became a mother. Because I was going, I could never take such a thing. So what is this? No man can imagine just alone to have somebody living in your belly, I would get crazy, like somebody kicking, But if you're a woman, you go like, oh, yeah, well, they call it even happiness. I don't know, happiness of what? There's somebody kicking here, So they're made for that. So when you see these plain biological processes being played out in front of you, things which people used to do thousands and thousands of years. And that's also one reason, that's another aspect of Srila Prabhupada, why he was so universally effective. Because he knew that. He was in all these situations, he was there before. He was not only empowered acharya, he was an experienced householder. He was an experienced father. He knew that. Devotees were shocked how Prabhupada knows how to deal with children, and he was a sannyasi. You know the story of, there was one girl, that was the first actually known child being born to Shyamasundara Prabhu. And Malati, it was a little Saraswati. And they were still they were hippies. They joined, that was another thing, hippies. Well, they were joining with nothing, and they were only traveling already anyway. Hippies means you move around and living in old buses or whatever. So they had no problem with that. And then they got married, and they got a child. You know why the child was growing up? In a banana box, always traveling. You see pictures, Prabhupada, Saraswati, everywhere. All over the world, locations. There was always a little Saraswati, And she must have been incredible. She was probably traveling in a suitcase, so I don't know what. Now, Prabhupada had a quite distinct relationship to her. It was like she was always there, and she had kind of privileged. She could anytime enter Prabhupada's room. For her, Prabhupada was just an uncle, or grandfather, or whatever it was. And Saraswati always came to Prabhupada and said, Prabhupada, why do you have such a big mouth? And Prabhupada said, so I can put many sweets inside. And she was like, oh, big mouth, many sweets. Oh. He knew exactly the line of communication, There's a famous story how Shyamasundara and his wife had a darshan with Prabhupada, and they had a little Saraswati mother had on her lap. And as usually is the case, the children get annoyed when the grown-up people are discussing something because they don't become the center of attention. And they think, what are they talking about? I'm here, you know. So Saraswati became restless, and she was like, you know. And then the mother was listening, Prabhupada was talking. She didn't pay attention, and Saraswati fell out from her lap and hit the floor, you know, with the head, little bit. Of course, she wanted to use the opportunity by taking a good breath and scream and destroy the whole meeting. So she took a good breath, looked at Prabhupada and couldn't scream. Prabhupada was looking at her. He had his big eyebrows. He looked at her very seriously. He said, "You hit with your head my floor. You broke my floor." And Saraswati was completely, "I broke the floor? Where?" And she was looking, "Where did I broke the floor?" And she completely forgot crying. And she could never find it, and she was so confused, she just stopped. And then she sat again on the lap of the mother. And these grihastas were looking at her going, "Wow, that's expert." Wouldn't get in my mind, you know, to neutralize a child like this, to, you know, Prabhupada knew exactly how to deal with this. Papa. You know, that not all sannyasis know that. Prabhupada was much more as a sannyasi. He was much more as a saint even. He was a personality which we never find enough words to glorify. And still, I am after 50 years, still trying to find out who was Prabhupada. The dimensions of Prabhupada are endless. You find, wow, in the line of management, in the line of preaching, how to deal with people, how to act responsibly as a family man, all this, you find it all just in that one personality. It's just amazing. And he was the only one who introduced Krishna consciousness to the West. Mm-hmm. Nobody before him. And there were godbrothers going to the West, you know. They came back with no result. Just the choice Prabhupada made was amazing. His godbrother, they knew British. And already in India, Bhaktivinoda Thakur and this, they were respected by the British, you could say, rulers, and by the, because they wanted to have the, you know, local Bengalis to manage for them. Bhaktivinoda Thakur was also one of these. He was just a grihasta, and he was expert manager too. He was a high court judge. Can you imagine? So they looked for people like that. So the godbrothers, when they were sent to the West, they were saying, "Oh, that's where we are going to preach." When we preach to the leaders, to this big British, you know, then they will install Krishna consciousness in a society. Wrong idea. Prabhupada quoted that they preached to some lord in England. And he asked, he was interested, he said, "Can you make me to a Brahmana?" They're going, "Of course. You follow these 4 regulatory principles to start with." And he said immediately, "Impossible. No meat eating? Impossible. No drinking? Impossible." So that was the end of his Brahminical career. So they were all like that. So Prabhupada knew that. He could have done that. He could also have gone to London and, you know, this. No. He went to America because he already knew it's going to be America dictating, in today's terms, you could say, the degradation of the world. It's definitely the Kali's headquarters, you know. I mean, whatever you see here around, coming up, being imported, is made in USA usually. That's the idea where it came from. Shopping center. And of course, they have embassies, Germany and all that. They go along with that. Now this sounds a little bit maybe too daring, and I'm not a friend of the conspirational theories, okay? But it's all important. Everywhere you go. I joked in Osijek. I was going, you know how to, Krishna is like, you know how you can understand Krishna's all-pervasive presence? Well, Krishna is a little bit like Kaufland. Wherever you go, there's Kaufland. It's a crazy example, but but it's a fact. Wherever I go, Kaufland, Lidl, That's the culture they are spreading. That's a culture contribution. Shopping center. Well, America is just one big shopping center. There's nothing there. Even the churches are small like this, a shopping center like that. That's it. That's it. And they do it like a preaching mission. You are not cultured people, you don't have any shopping center. What kind of culture is that? You could say, well, so far I remember vaguely, you travel the Croatian coast, it was just fishermen villages, basically. I could imagine the life was quite peaceful actually. The fishermen came back, with fish. And it was a simple villages. I don't want to go more in history because I am not informed in such a detail, but I know this used to be much more personal here, much more idealistic, much more, congregational. This problem we are facing as devotees, that we are all not very much kind of united. This is not coming only from us. This is dictated from outside. It's a British colonizing policy. Divide them and control them. They conquered India like that. The India was full of little kingdoms, And some of them are very rich. These kings are very rich. So British came and they played them against each other. They make politics. They are very good. Prabhupada said they are very good in politics and propaganda. So they played them against each other, and then the kings were, rumors, we have this king. And while starting fighting each other, they finally fell apart, and the British took over. So this talk about unity of mankind, and oh my God, I remember when they introduced this euro, it was a propaganda. Now we're really united. We have the same currency. Really? Come on, what kind of idea is we have the same currency, we are now united? Prabhupada laughed about United Nations. He said they passed the big building, United Nations. And Prabhupada said, what do they mean by united? Look at the number of flags they have in front of the door. That's not united. United would mean one flag. That's I would call united. And you find it in the introduction to Bhagavad Gita. He writes, let there be one religion, one God, one mantra. That's called unification. No. And you find it, again reflected even amongst devotees, because we are individual persons. Now, how do you unite individual persons in one unit working in the same, similar fashion? Under the principle which is there, coded in our Shastra, to be one together and simultaneously different. It's kind of contradictory, you think. Material people are saying that's not possible. Either we are one or we are different. No, in Krishna consciousness, we are striving for this. And Prabhupada showed us how to do this. He treated everybody very individually, uniting us under the same umbrella of devotional service and the mission. Mission, we can maybe tomorrow talk more about this. There's no clock here. I have to be always controlled.
7:30.
Huh?
7:30.
Huh?
7:30.
7:30?
7:30.
7?
30. Yes.
8. 8:30. So we overdid it already.
7:30.
7:30.
Huh?
7:30.
7:30. 7:30. Okay, I still have the half an hour credit. I ask because, sometimes they go, it's midnight, In Osijek, we were just few devotees and talking, and actually it was not lecture really. We just at the end just shared things, I like this. Then one devotee said, it's midnight. I'm going, oh, sorry, No, we know we have our schedules and everybody has to retreat anyway. But maybe it is half an hour or whatever time we have. Somebody has some questions or some input.
It's a kind of a personal question. If you could have a chance right now to see Prabhupada in person, what is the first thing you would say to him?
Me saying to him?
Yes, except obeisance.
That's a nice question. Very simple. I will copy the same question he asked his spiritual master. It was only, Prabhupada said, I asked my spiritual master only one single question. How can I serve you? That's it. And I would just wait. And I am 100% sure that Prabhupada will give me a short, precise, but very deep answer. So much of my thinking and praying would be solved. You know, I wouldn't have even to pray one damn thing. Because Prabhupada already said that. That's the prayer fulfilled. Bye-bye. It's just a question to do it. And Prabhupada sometimes, devotees told me, they got instruction, they go say, well, Prabhupada, how shall we do that? I never did anything like this. I feel completely unqualified. Prabhupada looked at him and said, don't you think Krishna cannot help you? And then you knew. That's also instruction. Krishna will help me, Prabhupada said. And they did amazing things, these devotees. They were empowered. Sometimes you wonder, what kind of people Prabhupada too can empower them? I found an answer to that, by the way, also. Because you can get it from Prabhupada correspondence. Prabhupada writes, actually, you are my disciples, but you are sent to me by my spiritual master to help me. And then you find immediately explained why Prabhupada was so tolerant. Even in times where his disciples were doing quite crazy things, Prabhupada was still tolerant because he said, well, this is what my spiritual master said to me. Well, I have to do something out of it. And sorry, I have to say it's recorded and some people may get upset, but the kind of people Prabhupada picked up was amazing what he did with them. And what an impact they had in their service being empowered by him. Just amazing. There's no material explanation for that. In the material world, you have to learn and study, and then you are qualified to do this job. And when you do it good, you can upgrade and more learning, more this. And one day maybe you become the boss of that branch. Takes a long time. And you are representing it. Prabhupada, same process in 1 minute. There was one professor, later on, academic person, he couldn't relate much to devotees because they were all Haribol, and academic people go, yeah, that's nice, you are happy boys and girls, but not appealing to academic person very much. So, until the point he got in touch with Prabhupada. Then he immediately understood, oh, that's the academic department. Because Prabhupada could talk really even to people of this sort, Shastra, and they were very, wow, oh, that's what it is. And that professor, he had some very shocking experience. It was a situation where the Back to Godhead magazine appeared an article. I remember that issue actually, I saw it. It's a long, long time ago. Where some devotee got inspired to describe in parallel way how the Gopas in Vrindavan were cowhead boys, like the cowboys in America. It wasn't a big thing, just mention it. Prabhupada got furious. He said, cowboys in America? They are breeding cows, killing them. What has this to do with that? Prabhupada was furious. He said, how can you publish such a thing? So he dismissed, the editor. And this academic man, he knew our literature and this, so he just watched this. It was very heavy. And then Prabhupada turned to a devotee who was sitting in a corner. He said, now you are the editor. And that professor knew that devotee. And he knew. He was a very simple guy. He was going, how can he become editor? And the devotee said to him, Prabhupada, I never did anything like this. And Prabhupada looked at him and said, Krishna will help you, don't worry. And the professor was like, wow, that's the graduation here. That's the academic studies. Prabhupada says you can do it and you will be able to do it. And he was able to do it. The professor got impressed. He said, this is amazing how this movement works. Sometimes they ask us, how is ISKCON managed? Now I can give some basic, the official version, okay? Well, I don't want to go in detail, but traveling around, living in ISKCON for 50 years, I tell you quite frankly, I don't know how ISKCON is managed. It goes on somewhat, but you cannot have a material definition for that. It definitely cannot be materially understood how this movement is somewhat surviving and going on. Try to improve it. You can go and you can have a study manager in ISKCON. I think such a seminars exist already. I never saw one manager coming out of that. You know why? Well, you can have a study and you can diploma. I studied management in ISKCON. The next question, who do you want to manage? Then you see, there's nobody to manage, there's nobody here. And how do you find somebody to manage? You have to preach. That's the basis of ISKCON management. If you cannot preach, forget your management. Prabhupada said, if you preach nicely, the management will be at the tips of your fingers. That's how we manage. Prabhupada didn't start with the constitution, managerial of the ISKCON. He preached to people, he talked to people, he inspired people, and according to their qualification, he gave them a place to serve. That's management. It's a very different thing, like, in a material world. But, I tell you a little secret, a successful company in a material world, I got some glimpses of that. It's coming very close to the Varnashram Dharma structure. When you see a really good functioning company, well, they don't have a brahmanas, they don't have that. But they have supervisor, they have divisions. One of the most important persons in a big company, in Germany they call it Personalchef, is the guy who will be there when people get hired, and regardless of their diploma and the papers, and they bring and present, he is good of judging people. So he knows, this man could be good for this, and this woman could be very good for that. When you have such a qualified man, the company goes, Yup. But you can take even a good person and you put him in the wrong place, it's a mess. He gets frustrated, people flip out, he's just wrongly situated. I would compare it, I come from an artistic background, I would compare it to casting a film. There's always in the films you find casting, okay? That's the man who picks up actors and assigns them to particular roles. And everybody knows you can ruin a whole movie just taking a man who would be very good villain, the bad guy, and you try to make a good guy out of him. They know, these people know, he can play this really good. He has an ability to be a really bad guy. So let him play it. Krishna consciousness is not so different. Prabhupada was perfect casting man. He set up the scene He knew who can play which role best. And there's always a risks. Of course you take a risk. People can change, Prabhupada got also disappointed sometimes. He trusted. He gave us a credit. Sometimes the credit got misused. It happens. Prabhupada was very disappointed, even shocked. He said, but I told you to do this. Why are you doing this? Why are you going? Why are you leaving? You could still do that. No. You cannot change and violate. Prabhupada did a simple, he always said, well, if Krishna cannot stop you, what can I do? Because Krishna never violates the individual power of decision, minor decision of that individual soul. Very tricky how this movement is managed, You can only talk. I managed temples like that. I was temple president for 25 years, managing big restaurant. I don't even know how to cook, by the way. But I had the best cooks always. Why? Because I was day and night serving the cooks. Prabhu, what do you need? That's all, what you have to do. I just, try to go along the line what people could do. Not putting some man, the problem in ISKCON sometimes we have emergencies. An emergency, they take anybody and look. There's no temple president. Oh, who wants to be temple president? Nobody. Then they go, can you be a temple president? He goes, okay, that doesn't mean you got the right man. It's just, he agreed. That way we change temple presidents like socks sometimes. Because they get easily worn out. I'm eternally grateful, whatever the situation presently is, but I'm eternally grateful to a GBC I worked 25 years under. He had one quality. He knew how to put people there where they belong. He set up a management in such a way that even when he got in trouble, it was going on. Because there was the right people in the right places. The work under such a manager is very pleasant, It wasn't easy always, never easy. He put me into projects which were usually in a disastrous condition. It's what you have to do as a manager in ISKCON. You come and pick up something which is falling apart. And he told me, you go there and you do this. I was going, why me? He made me a manager of a restaurant. I told him, I cannot even cook. My qualification, I can burn even a tea. I tried, really. I'm a disaster. He said, that's not important. But he knew I will find a cook. Very often I got cooks from Czech and Yugoslavia. I was in Sweden. But I was already in Yugoslavia a long time ago. That was during the time of the Yugoslavian war here. The Swedish government was welcoming the refugees. The devotees came in very easily. They could stay even. They were refugees. So I could tell you, I already learned about, different kind of Yugoslavians. Those from the coast, they are usually very good cooks. And those from the mountains, they were very good, heavy workers. I can give you even a lecture about Serbian Mataji's. Oh my God. I wrote the Hare Krishna, this is not women, this is men in disguise. We had kitchen, and the restaurant was becoming really big. We had 500 to 600 people a day. That's crazy. It's madness. Madness. Machines were breaking down, I bought machines, professional kitchen machines once. And from there on, they were in a warranty time, all the time. They called me, about the dishwashing machine, it says 3 years warranty. Oh, good luck. We finished it in 1 year, it was finished. And they had to bring a new one. They said, but this is in machine number 3 we are bringing, What are you doing with these machines? And I said, well, we have 500, 600 people a day. He said, yeah, okay, well, that finishes even the most professional machine. So we had things like that. And then came I had, sometimes in my temple was devotees from like 5, 6 nations all the time. Because, my authority had the ability, his zone was reaching all the way to here, from Iceland up to Yugoslavia. So he could draw, he could inspire people to come and join. So that was a luxury I had. I just said, I need a new cook. I didn't know, I had contacts too, but he had all the contacts. I asked him once, how can you do so many things at once? So many responsibilities, things. He said, no, I don't do many things at once. I just have that big phone book. And I just connect people like this. He was like in a phone central, You could come to him with anything and going, oh, we have a problem here, and he was going, call him. That was easy. It was nice. So I had no lack of manpower actually. But I remember, we had finally one Swedish bhakta came. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare. Big brain. He was already having 2 computers those days. But no action. Prabhu, can you bring my bead back? Well, it's difficult when you run a restaurant with 500 people a day and you have a temple with 45 devotees living in it. Well, they treated him like furniture, They put him somewhere, and they push him there. And so I said, I need some help. But there was Czech devotees house were very good, because especially from the communistic days. Because in communism, like in Czechoslovakia, basically nothing worked. So people help each other all the time. In all kinds of levels. They could fix the electricity, they could paint the wall, and they could cook. And it was like, pop, 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 because communism means do it yourself, at the end. So they were very experienced. It was very pleasant and it's my home country, so I could very easily communicate with them. And then we got the Yugoslavian import. I ended up with a female, because the male were actually canvassed for construction department. And I didn't have initially big construction going on, it's just a restaurant and the temple. So they went to farm in Sweden and this, and they did an incredible job. 5 Yugoslavian workers, they renovated the whole farm, just like this. Working from 7 in the morning to midnight, just like that. You could always hear that, I knew, the Yugoslavians are here, And I got this, like from Serbia, Mataji's coming. I was going, wow. And there was a Swedish bug that was going, when you cook for them, and you had 120 liter pots, you know what it is? This is big like this, it's full of sabji. And they were like, and some Serbian man was going, who is this guy? She just pushed him aside. I was going, hey, we are in Serbia, it's very good. And I spoke to these ladies, sometimes more. I don't know if they exist, this kind of people, but they were going, wow. When I was a small girl, I never played with puppets or something, like girls' puppets. She said, after school with the girls, we were going to a forest, and we had a big pile of hay. In the hay, we had 3 Kalashnikovs. And the girls were playing in a forest. I was going, those were really girls, Serbian girls with Kalashnikov, that's really something.
I never hear stories like this. I never hear like this.
You never heard like this? I had a practical experience. It was not one. It was a whole crew coming like this. Where did you came from?
I know also one example
Yeah?
of such nature.
I mean, today is different, but I was going, I heard Hare Krishna, It's quite simple. I deal with them like with men, and they're very happy. Hey, manager, please, can you, there's a pallet of potato, can you bring in, you know, it's like, wow. I wrote to Zarakesha and he said, well, they're coming from a war zone, that time. I could tell you stories from the restaurant, a whole book I could write about it. Because I was sitting there for 15 years, so you see lots of things happening. And then one day we just, it was so crazy, every day was crazy. But I like it. For me, the more chaos, the nature doesn't change. Even today, I wouldn't know if I could cope physically with that kind of craziness. But regarding chaos, I like it. It's a challenge, it gives you something to do. If somebody would just to say that this building is on fire, I would get kind of invigorated. I would say, okay, where's the exit door? And I would look out of the window. Oh yeah, there is a pipe coming down. We can climb down the pipe and all this, and we can get out of here. For me, it's life. So that was my life in that restaurant. Every day was some crisis. Every day. So I was like, okay. I got so used to it. I was, like, huh. And I remember one evening, one Mataji from Bosnia, she came and she knocked on my door. And she said, there's a dead devotee in a toilet. And I was going, what? What is he doing there? Nothing. He is dead. I was going, oh no. I was going, my first thought was, how do we get a dead body through a public toilet, through the restaurant, out? That was my first thought, the manager thinking, right? So I went there and he was overdosed. He'd overdosed with heroin.
No, devotee.
Huh?
Devotee.
Yeah, he overdosed with heroin in the toilet. So I was checking his pulse and he was still around in a subtle form, but he was not in a body anymore. So I called the ambulance and they said, sorry, but we have a problem here. This is, in the middle of the restaurant. And they were professionals. They were going, no problem. Just cool down. So they went in, they checked, he was dead. They put his body on some kind of stretcher and they lift the stretcher so like in more sitting position, and they tied him up, put a blanket and they drove between the tables, like this, And people were eating, they were saying, oh, poor boy, he fainted. No, he was dead, So they got him out in the street and I turned around and all the devotees were like, there was only this Mataji from Bosnia. She was like, why is everybody so flipped out? Because she saw dead bodies from the day she was born. That's the area she came from, Yugoslavian war. So for her it was like, why are they flipping out? Yeah, somebody died here, so it's a big deal. I was going, oh, I'm in Yugoslavia back again. That was for me like Yugoslavia, that place where, it was in the middle of the war here. But anyway, this is just stories telling. But can have some fun in Krishna consciousness, One thing I can say, thanks to Prabhupada, my life wasn't boring. That's for sure. I can talk to you day and night stories, When I look at the karmis, I go, poor people, They go, something changed in a town. They moved the bus station from one few meters further. Big change. That was the only thing that happened in their life. I go, oh, boring. I'm so grateful to Prabhupada for this lifetime. How could I meet him even, I was born in Czechoslovakia, in communistic Czechoslovakia. Whenever I go to Russia, I thank Russian nation. Thank you for invading Czechoslovakia in 1968. And they go like, why? Well, because then my parents immigrated and I got out of there. If I wouldn't get out of Czechoslovakia, I couldn't join 4 years later in Germany. And in Czechoslovakia, there was not really Krishna consciousness until the end of communism. That was another 20 years, So how would I meet Prabhupada there? It was all arranged. When you look back, you think, wow. I know only 2 devotees from Czechoslovakia who had the same luck. Quite amazing when you look back. And if you want to hear the real story, you listen to Prabhupada's Vyasa Puja lectures, where he often kind of recollects how he came to America and how he met the disciples and all this. And it becomes very emotional. Why? Because Prabhupada is recollecting how Krishna used him more and more and more. This is the bliss for a devotee. You realize Krishna was me, the little guy. Some kind of guy from Czechoslovakia, come on. And you realize, yeah, Krishna was using me, at least to some degree. How amazing. I became somewhat useful to him. That's a privileged. It's a privileged position because most people are. Prabhupada didn't hesitate, said this is a wasted life. They wasted their life. And we shouldn't do that. We shouldn't waste our life. We should try to make out of the life the best we can. And how do you do that? You try to become useful in Prabhupada's mission, somehow. Now, I don't want to go into it, we're out of time. We can go tomorrow, keeping how to become useful in Prabhupada's mission. I joined the movement when, if you were not sitting in a Sankirtan and distributing books, you were used less. Well, obviously, that's a very limited concept, okay? Nowadays, we are dealing with another range of abilities, possibilities, and also people and experienced people who can do a great contribution just by being sometimes what they are. Now I can elaborate on this more tomorrow, but it's wonderful. Some people are so limited, they even think, I heard this idea, I heard it just recently, the idea, here in Croatia, there's a discussion how to establish again ISKCON membership. Remember? You get a card, you get a number. I heard there's such a discussion. I was going, hey, this is an old idea. My God, I heard this idea 40 years ago, you know. And you know what happened? Nothing. Good luck with that one. How you become a member? You follow the process. How do you want to put it in number? And what about if he stops following the process? Then, my God, you will have a whole inquisition department checking people if they are following a note, registering. Oh, good luck with that one. No. This movement is taking place there where people follow the process. And if they don't follow the process, it's not going to take place. It's as simple as that. It doesn't relate to any nation, location, man, woman, whatever it is. It's just a question of following the process. That's all. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
This is the 8th month that the book is.